Okay, welcome to the live podcast, Win More on Purpose. Today we have Moshe Schaumer, my coach, with us on I Never Dreamed I'd Be Where I Am Today, Unlock and Achieve Your True Potential. For those of you who don't know the agenda, it's going to be a conversation between myself and Moshe, and we're all here learning together. Write down those questions. There's going to be a Q&A at the end. And for those of you who are joining here live, you can start off by just putting into the chat, where are you focused on in your business today? Perhaps where it is that you're even coming in from, or what it is that you do. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Yaacov Steinberg. I am a sales coach. When I first went into the coaching space full time about 4.5+ years ago now, I noticed that people were able to get to 6, 7 figures on their own. They're good at what they do. They're passionate. Some point along the way, they learned how to speak to people, but they'd hit this glass ceiling. And many times it was because they were making it up as they went along. And there's only so long that's going to work. Other times it was because they didn't want to be that stereotypical used car salesperson, sleazy, pushy, just having people buy things they didn't even need. And that's where I came into the picture. Mindset, techniques, skills, really helping people to have that confidence and clarity to understand who they were needed to speak to, where they were going to find them, what to say, how to say it, and be able to grow their business. I've had the pleasure of working with quite a number of pretty well-known people on LinkedIn, whether it's Chaya Fishman, Hudi Bloch, Hudi Greenberger, Eli Bash. And thankfully, the companies that have worked with me have been able to grow at the 6, 7 figure level by even 50% in the first 60 days of working with me. Those at the 100K level, give or take, have been able to grow by even 150% in the first 60 to 90 days. And those solopreneurs just starting out, even only at 4K a month, have been able to grow by even 200, 240% in the first 45 days. Moshe, it's so exciting to have you here with us. Tell us a little bit
Thank
about
you.
yourself,
Very
and
excited
let's
to be
get
here
the
as
show on the
well.
road.
Nervous too. First podcast. Very excited to be here. So my name is Moshe Schaumer. I'm a high performance coach. I guess even before that, I've been a serial entrepreneur for close to 25 years. Started building businesses when I was 13 years old, and I'm 51 now. So I've been building businesses online, offline. In 2008, I went into the coaching space because I noticed that's where my passion always was. As much as I liked working on business, I loved helping others succeed in their business. So I started my journey in coaching, and it evolved as I went along. I started off in coaching. I as well studied hypnosis, NLP, and eventually got into the realm of high performance coaching. And that really came in around COVID time, which it was beginning when Yaacov and I first met. And at that time when COVID came, for me, it was a knock on the door, and Hashem was saying, "Okay, the world, we're shaking up the world, and I'm here." And I'm like, "Okay, let's go, let's grow." And it wasn't a time to lock down and sit back, but it was a time to really step up to the plate and get in gear. And I saw that what men needed more than anything else was a chaver tov, a good friend, a coach, to not go in the world alone. And we see really in so much of our teachings that we're not designed to go alone. So I really started focusing. We developed a space where men get together and work on themselves and grow and build their business and see Hatzlacha really in every area of their life. And it's ultimately evolved into the space of high performance coaching, where surprisingly enough, the biggest key to success that we'll get into is midos development. And that's really my passion now, helping men and their children and their families transform their lives just by actively working on their midos. So that's a little bit about me. Anything else you can think of, Yaakov, if you want to ask?
I mean, look, Moshe has helped me over the past couple of years grow in ways that I literally never dreamed where I'd be where I am today, which is why we named the podcast What We Did. And he has truly helped me to unlock and achieve um, today my true potential, and continues to show me that there are so many other ways that I can continue breaking down barriers, being
Just getting
consistent, moving
started.
things forward. And we are just getting started. Exactly. So let's jump into question one. What is high performance? I know that we speak about this word high performance. It gets thrown around a lot. What exactly is high performance coaching, or what is high performance itself?
Right. So the basics of high performance is, at the simplest level, exceeding beyond the norms while maintaining life balance. It's not just about being the best in an area to the destruction of everything else, but it's constantly improving your edge, moving to the highest level of your talents and beyond, but maintaining balance in all aspects of your life. Very holistic.
Amazing. And I can even say from my own experience, like one of the things that we've spoken about time and time again is making sure that as much as we're trying to push, we need to do that within the realm of normal, within the realm even of hishtadlus from a Jewish perspective, the right amount of effort that we're supposed to put in. And that includes making sure, that I'm being there for my family in the right way, that I'm being there for myself in the right way, showing up for God in the right way, which is very different, I think, than the way so many people look at high performance and what that means. Like when we think of, Michael Jordan, right, as the greatest of all time basketball player, let's say, and, he had a coach because great performers, they have coaches. And we don't necessarily think of what was outside of the arena. We just think of what happens inside the arena. And therefore, I think that we automatically assume that it's just high performance means you're constantly on and there is never a break. There is never time for family. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs make that mistake, which is why so many of them, their businesses blow up in their faces and they end up having marital issues sometimes. We shouldn't hear of such things, but they happen. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. And so much of it is because we think that what's often driving us, right, where we sort of get programmed, and so much, especially this world today, we see it with the technology that's out there. We don't even slow down and think. We don't even stop to reflect. Why am I doing what I want? Where am I going? How did I even get here? Did I want to be here? When did I decide to believe that? There's so many things we could, if we would just stop for a minute and start to ask those questions, we'd probably experience shifts and change our course. So often because of that, we like, oh, I have to mass wealth. I have to buy all these gadgets. I have to live this lifestyle. And then what ends up happening is you're in that burn. You're just constantly burning and being driven in that direction that I have to do this. I have to get this. I have to achieve this. But because you're not looking at the horizon, it's literally like running a car at 7,000 RPM nonstop, right? Trying to fill up the
Right.
tank while you're still moving, but eventually, and never pulling over for a refuel, an oil change, you eventually burn out. You think you're going to get to your goal faster, but in the end, you're just crashing and burning. Whereas looking at going in the opposite direction, when you take that pit stop, when you take your time, when you're strategic, when you know you want to go, not only do you get there, but the journey is much more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a very important piece. Like we could even ask ourselves, why high performance coaching? Like why is high performance coaching different than all other coachings? I almost feel like it's Passover. But
Mhm.
why high performance coaching versus regular coaching, regular business coaching or sales coaching, even as an example?
So I would say venture just well. It's funny because I know you in the context of sales coaching. So your sales coaching is more high performance coaching as well, because of our journey together. But
Right.
what I noticed the difference when I shifted into high performance coaching was that originally it was like, hey, how you doing? What do you want to work on this week? What did you work on last week? What got in the way? It was very much just a check-in placeholder sort of relationship. And the growth wasn't so accelerated. And very often it was because you were just focusing on those small goals, those small activities. But when you
Right.
step into the realm of high performance and you're starting to work on your mythos, your identity, your character, your habits, it's a whole different shift. So, for example, I guess for me, just because I'm in that mode right now, Baruch Hashem, I recently lost about 25, 30 pounds. And I did a competition and I'm a little bit of an extreme guy. So for me, I did intermittent fasting, but my intermittent fasting was like 21 hours, 21 hours of fasting and 3 hours of eating.
Right.
But
Wow.
one of the reasons I think that I found it so easy was because I wasn't working on dieting. I wasn't working on losing weight. I wasn't working on getting in shape. I was working on cultivating the habit of healthy, the identity of healthy. I am a healthy person. Working on that habit on a daily basis and reinforcing it just started shifting how I show up, the choices I make. So the same thing when we're looking at high performance coaching, it's not just a theoretical, up in the air sort of idea. What did you do this week, last week, small goals? But it's a structure. It's a clear structure. We work in blocks of 12 weeks, and it's a clear and specific framework. We want to work on the different habits, whether it's clarity, identity, courage, whatever habit that we want to work on to take our goals. We're doing it in a systematic way so we know we're getting there. Just like in business, in the realm of high performance in business or in sports or in entertainment, these people know where they want to go. And when they sit down with their coach, they say, this is the target I'm going for. This is where I want to be 3 to 5 years from now. How are we going to get
Mm,
there? And we can't get there by just setting the next week goal and then next week changing that goal and then next week changing that goal. It has to be a clear path that's set out and then say, hey, what's the identity? Who do I have to be? Who do I have to develop myself into to get to that destination?
right. And I think this has come up many times, even in our own coaching. It's not just having a bigger goal or a more long-term goal. It's having that clear goal. And then once you have it, breaking it down into smaller bite-sized chunks of understanding, okay, if I want to be able to make $1 million a year, well, in order to do that, what type of person do I need to become? What does that Yaakov version look like that's able to do that? What are the systems that he has in place? What are the different processes he has in place? Who's on the team in order to be able to ensure that it's a consistent place of growth and not just a one-off type of thing. And I think that that's one of the biggest shifts, or one of the biggest shifts that happened, you know, within high performance coaching for myself, was understanding having those, long-term goals and those bigger goals were also broken down into mini, kind of like, within a video game. There's the boss at the end, and then there's many stages as you go along. It's the same idea, right? That big boss level all the way at the end is that ultimate goal, but there's got to be those mini stages as you go along, those mini games, as it were, in order to really get to that place.
Right. And also as well, you said before, having clarity on goals, but it's even, I would say, a little bit more meta, being about clarity in general. Sorry, tongue tied. Sorry, in general, like, where do I want to go in life? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Because again, very often, if we're just goal focused, but not identity focused, and really discovering how we want to show up in the world, it's so easy to lose sight. And we see it a lot today, parenting, right? If you ask a parent, what's the most important to you? Who's the most important? My kids. There's nothing more important than my kids. And
Right.
we see when something happens, Rahman al a child's not well, everything's dropped, everything's stopped. But when it's not like that, and we're not clear and we're not thinking, then we just get busy with everything else. So we are there for our children when they're not well, but when they're healthy, and that means that they're not in the emergency room, then we're back to our own lives. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is, because we took away our clarity, we're not reminding ourselves on a daily basis that, hey, I'm here to raise a family. I'm here to schwitz and raise a family and put in that effort and that time. Then we forget them completely. And then when we do that, we miss what's happening, because they're healthy, but they're sucked into their technology. They're sucked into unhealthy activities. They're alone. They're in pain, but we never address it because we don't have that clarity in front of us saying, hey, I want to be an amazing, powerful, and connected parent. I want to build a loving relationship with my child. Well, I work to support my family. So without that global clarity, we can end up getting so stuck.
Yeah, and I think that you put this so well in your LinkedIn about section, which I know that you don't really use LinkedIn that much, but I've been tagging you this whole week. But sorry about that.
No
But
worries.
in the about section, you literally say, if you're here and you're looking for a coach because you want to make lots of money and have fancy cars and go on like super vacations and have millions of dollars, I'm not the right coach for you. But if you want to have a relationship with yourself, God, your family, be supporting your family in a way that is going to build them and you and a cohesive relationship. And I'm not reading this verbatim, but the basic idea was exactly that. What is the clarity with which you're coming to the coach for?
Mhm.
Right. And it starts already from that first stage. What do you want out of coaching? Why coaching? Why are you even here? And then from there, with that clarity in mind, now you can start building the individual to have the clarity they need to start moving forward, because once they have the clarity, that's where the magic begins.
And also, just what you were saying before about, on my page, if you're just in it to make money, I'm not your guy. And I had that once where a guy called me up and he was willing to, he's like, I'll pay whatever price you want. This is the goal I want to hit. And I asked him, what about, you're a newlywed. I think maybe they just had a child a couple of years in or something. And I said, how long is this going to take you? He said, at least a year. I said, what about 2 months from now? Your wife says she needs a vacation. Like, I'm not really sure I want to go, but I'll go, but I'll be in my head in business. And I said, I can't help you. I said, if that's going to be your drive, you're going to destroy your relationship, you're not going to succeed at all. And on the flip side of that, it doesn't mean that you won't make more money, you won't see success. I believe you'll see even greater success. And I had that last week
Right.
where I was speaking with somebody and his business, he was stuck within his business, and really business is. And when I challenged him, because he was stuck in making a choice and his heart was getting in the way. Why? Because he's got a big heart, he's a good man, and he wants to take care of his team. He has to make a hard choice. And that hard choice, if he would make it, would actually generate more wealth for him. But when I challenged him and I said, how's this impacting your family, this choice that you're holding back from? And he saw it was actually weakening his family and it was taking away from him being able to give to his family. It suddenly woke him up and he was like, wait a second, no, I have to make that choice. It's
Right.
going to be hard and I'm going to do it. But what was really cool is he reached out to me at the end of the week. He's like, I never thought this would be so easy and smooth. I thought this was going to be a stressful transition, but now I made the transition. My team is supportive, and now we're on a new growth track. We're actually going to build a stronger, more profitable company, but he has more time for his family now. And he realizes what's driving him, which is only going to accelerate the growth.
Right. And I think this goes right into our next question is, getting practical with it. How do we unlock, how do we achieve that true potential? How do we achieve that high performance? We're talking about clarity right now, right? But how do we go, forward with this? What are like some of the steps we need to begin taking?
So just I'll take one step back and first, so we can do some practical examples as well. But in the
Hmm.
model that I studied of high performance coaching, they found that there were 5, 6 key areas, habits that high performers worked on that they continually implemented and developed and refined and grew within themselves to achieve success. And this was across the board. It didn't matter if you were a high performing stay at home mom or a high performing CEO of a Fortune 50 company. It didn't matter where you were in the spectrum as well. You didn't have to have these innately within you. If you don't see yourself as high performance, it doesn't mean that you can't be high performance. Most of the things we were talking about this over our drive this past weekend, talking about stepping up and doing what I need to do as a father. I never used to do this sort of stuff because I was too busy. But Motzi Shabbos, after Shabbos, I said to the family, let's drive to Lakewood, right? I'm in Toronto. It's a 9-hour drive. And we literally packed up, got in the car. I drove for 7 hours straight and then stopped for davening and then went on to Lakewood. And it was a 2-day whirlwind, tons of driving. We had a great time, but it was having that clarity. So when I said to my kids at one point, anything that you know how to do now, at some point you didn't know how to do it. The habit didn't exist. You think, oh, I can't be a high performance. No, you just have to work on and cultivate those habits. And the habits that we focus on are clarity, energy, activity, necessity, influence, and courage. These are 5 habits that, when worked on and developed, will transform you and take you in the direction to high performance. And for myself, definitely before I became certified as a high performance coach, I actually took myself through this process and I was implementing these habits in my life. And it was amazing just to see the transformations. And it's not that it's overnight. It's a gradual process, but as it takes hold, you really see your life evolving around you. So how do you implement these habits? How do you develop these habits? Within the model that I do with my clients, it starts off twofold. One is discussion. Every week when we get together, we will approach one of those habits and we'll ask some questions around it. We'll start to get thinking. Questions are such a powerful tool in and of themselves. We see Avram Avinu, how did he get to where he was? He started questioning the world. He started questioning what was going on, and those questions brought him to awareness. We go nonstop. We just keep running and running and doing and doing. We never stop and ask ourselves a question. But if we stop and we slow down and we say, okay, think of something, and we could use clarity as an example. If you think about your business, an area, maybe within your family, your parenting, whatever it might be, but an area where you'd like to see change. So pick that area. And now what I want you to do is I want you to think about that one thing that you've been repeating to yourself over the past 5 years. I really should be doing this. Really should be doing this. Very often when I sit down with a client and they tell me their business is not working, I ask them, where are you getting in your own way? They know the one thing that they should be doing. It comes up time and time again, but what happens? Because we're so busy, we're moving nonstop, we just leave that to the side. We remember it for a moment, and then the phone rings, and we forgot about it till 3 to 6 months later. But when you're working on clarity and developing that habit, well, now you know that, write it down. Set a reminder on your phone to check in on a daily basis. Am I holding course, doing what I have to do? Am I checking it off, right? Am I refining it? Am I checking with each week? Am I still on track? Do I want to level up, right? You're in a constant dialogue of clarity. You're creating a space to allow yourself to grow. So that would be a practical application of how we can refine the habit of clarity. As well, in general, so much of what we need to do to create change in our life, change is not complicated. I often ask the question, who is the most powerful? Hashem. God is the most powerful. Who's the most simple? Hashem is the most simple. He's one. We can't even understand that. There's power in simplicity. So also, habits change high performance. It's finding that one action that you need to take and starting to do it consistently. And that's really where we get to see the change. Time for one more example, Yaacov?
Yeah, please.
Exercise, and I'll give you another energy, popular one. Everybody is always struggling with energy. And this one you can say really everybody, 90% of the population is struggling with energy. And yes, there are things that we can do that are, they just came out. Not that I read newspapers, but I believe it's probably in the newspaper today. They just discovered that one of the keys to health and energy is getting proper sleep, exercising, and eating well, right? Not a chiddush, not a surprise. We know that we don't implement it because we don't create a space. But the other cool thing is when it comes to energy, there's other ways to manage your energy, to create energy. And this is one of the things that I do. And, Yaacov, you and I are here. We could do it. If anybody else wants to do it, they're not seen on the screen. But one of the things I do with my clients is I show them how they can reset themselves and at the same time energize themselves. So the first is we'll do just a quick reset. The reset is very simple. You close your eyes, you take a breath in, you take a breath out, right? A slow breath in, slow breath out. And as you're doing that, and we'll just do 5 breaths. You could do this after for 2 minutes, but just to experience it. And as you're breathing in, you're going to repeat the word in your head, release, right? Release, release, release on the in-breath. Release, release, release on the out-breath. Nice and slow. And do that without saying it, just in your mind. And just do that for 5 breaths. So I'll do the breathing. I won't say the release, but just let's do 5 breaths together. The second breath. And as you're saying that word release, just feel your body releasing, your thoughts releasing. 2 more breaths. Just open your eyes. So Yaacov, or anybody else, I guess, can text in. What do you notice that's different, Yaacov?
I feel much lighter.
Lighter, what else?
Free. My mind is clear. So not really bogged down by anything.
Right, and that's only 5 breaths. Imagine doing that for 2 minutes. Say you're in the consulting space. Say you just finished a tough meeting. Say you're coming back from work and it's been a stressful day and you're feeling exhausted and you need to reset yourself. This is an exercise that you can do 2 minutes just to bring yourself into the moment and reset yourself and let the day go behind you. These rituals are powerful. I even heard recently they studied tennis players, and the 2 types of tennis players, pros, the one that like after they throw their racket in, they swear and they're all angry, right? They're not top performers. They're not performers. The ones that were at a high performance level, the top players, when they finish a point, they immediately turn their backs from the net. So they let that point go. The past is behind me. They stand with a powerful posture. They say a word that helps them center themselves, and they play with their racket string so they're not distracted by the environment around them. And they studied these pro players, and they found that these pro players, within 25 seconds, their heart rate dropped by 25 beats per minute, which is unheard of. But they've created a ritual that creates that change. So you too as well can do that you can settle in your energy, right? You can disconnect from a previous meeting to prepare yourself, but and be ready for that next phase. Now that was part one, relaxing. But say you want to energize yourself. And with energizing, now you need the energy. You've calmed, but you want to bring energy. And this I actually did yesterday twice on the drive home. Because on the drive home, we got home at 3:00 in the morning. I was a little tired with a 7-hour drive. So what we do, this one, and Yaacov, you're welcome to join, and you might be sitting, I'm standing so I can do this, but it's very simple. What we do is we smile. And then while we're smiling, we take a breath in and out through our nose quickly. And then as we're doing that, we clap. And then we jump. And we do that 20 times. So it looked, and then at the end, we say, Baruch Hashem, I'm ready. Baruch Hashem, I'm ready. Baruch Hashem, I'm ready. So it looks something like this. Again, you're welcome to try this with me, but this is what I do before every meeting, client, or when I need the energy. I do this. Baruch Hashem, I'm ready. Baruch Hashem, I'm ready. Baruch Hashem, I'm ready. I did try it. I've seen Yaacov do it. He's done it for videos on me to show me. You notice right away your blood's pumping a little bit more. Your heart rate goes up. You've taken more oxygen into your lungs. You feel more alive. And people often ask me, how do I have so much energy? Because I do the practices. I develop the habits that create the outcome. It's not magic. It's not something I was born with. It's just something that I work on to develop within myself.
Yeah, and I've, like you said, I've had the opportunity of doing this in real time before meetings, after meetings, and it's a game changer.
The Thank You Hashem video.
100%, and I've sent
for
this
your
to
audience.
you, right?
That's great.
I've had homework where I had to send a video of me doing similar types of things in order to energize myself
like
and really
this.
be in the mode. And when you do this, and when you take the time to do it, and that's part of what we've been working on is that consistency and making sure you're constantly doing it. But when you do, it's a game changer, right? The whole mood, like people think, and this is something we've spoken about and I've spoken to my own clients about, is so many people think that first you need to be in the mood, and then the thoughts you'll be in a good mood, which is your thoughts, and then you'll be able to have great action. When many times through this, it's exactly the opposite.
So true.
Many
so
times
true.
first you need to do the action and just smile in the mirror for 5 minutes, right? Just smile in the mirror. You're not in the mood or you don't want to do anything. Just smile at yourself for a few minutes. You'll start genuinely smiling, right? And this takes, the game to a completely different level where your whole mindset is shifting, to a much more deeper place where you're able to connect not just with yourself on a much deeper level, but with everything around you, God and your environment. And it just enhances the entire experience of what we call life.
Beautiful. So true. And we see that control, that intentionality of thought. Avram Avinu, right? Avram, we see when the Malachim came, right? It says, it uses 3 lashonos, 3 languages of sight, right? That he was aware, he lifted his eyes, he saw, and it was Avram's intentionality with every thought. It wasn't just that we're told we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of them are negative thoughts because we're just letting our minds run rampant. We're not setting intentionality. But Avram Avinu, he was like, oh, there's people in my peripheral vision. What do I like to do with that information? Oh, I'm going to look. Okay, what do I want to be? I want to be aware. I want to see. And that consciousnness allows you to be so much more self-directed, right? And not reactive. How do you want to show up, right? If you want to show up as a attentive, a loving person, well, you have to have those thoughts. You have to have that attention. You have to have that awareness. You have to remind yourself. Just going through those actions. And like Yaacov, you said before, they did studies. They took people with depression and they had them smile for 20 minutes a day in front of a mirror. They had them smile at themselves for 20 minutes a day. And they said by the end of the 30 days, something like 80% of them went off their medication just by smiling at themselves every day, right? When we start to do those actions, when you're feeling tired, you'll often notice you're slouched over, you're sagging, you're looking down, and then you wonder why you're feeling down, right? Again, cool exercise you can try. Smile, big, it can be fake. big fake smile, do big fake smile, Yaakov, and then while you're doing that, try to have a negative thought. It doesn't work, right? Because your mind and body is connected. If your face is smiling, your mind says, okay, I can't, that thought doesn't connect, it's interfering. So it's so true. If you want to create any change and you want to feel differently, that first step is machshava, your thoughts, right? Machshava dibur maisa, your thoughts, right? The thoughts you want to have, who you want to be, think those thoughts, and then talk about it, and then act upon it, and eventually it's who you become.
Right. Yeah, yeah, and it's amazing to watch that happen. And this really goes into the next piece we were going to talk about, anyways, which is the three key mindsets that people need to focus on. Right. We've discussed this a little bit, ourselves, but there are three key mindsets that people need to constantly be focusing on. What exactly are those mindsets?
So I think that what's very important, and it's what we talked about just before, right? Machshava dibur maisa, that when you want to succeed, right, you have to be able to hold on to those thoughts, right? It's it's one of the amazing things we have is framework. A great way to learn when we want to teach our children something, right? We want to develop a habit in them. What do? We set up a system for them. We put up a chart. We put up checks. Why? Because it's a framework that you can follow. You can connect to. Right? I hated geography, but I know all the Great Lakes because we had a framework. Homes, HOMES, right? Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Simcoe, right? We create frameworks. When we have a framework, we can create change. In Torah as well, the wisdom is immense there. We have frames, machshava dibur maisa, right? Those mindset pieces are so important when we want to create shift. We have first the thoughts that we create. We have to choose what thoughts we want to hold on to, who we want to be, how we want to show up, how we want to live. We have to bring that present in front of us, right? Because we can't make any change until we first have clarity on who we want to be. And then next is our actions, the way our emotions, right? Our dibur even connects more to the feelings, the emotion, the intentionality that we have behind something, less than our actions. But say, for example, again, if you want to be a better father, I made a video recently on Torah Anytime about this. Children were coming home from camp. It was camp day. All the kids are coming back home, and I said to the fathers, it's so easy to be locked in our own patterns and just say hi, give a quick hello, and then go back to the office, go back to the call. I said, think about the relationship you want to build with your child. Really think about it, and then once you've thought about that, who is it that you want to be as the father, and you've got some clarity on that. Now connect emotion to it. Build the emotion of what is it going to feel like to be that person, how to show up in that way, right? Let the love. Think about the times. I do it often where I'll be thinking about, I'll go right back to their birth, right? I'll think about their birth and the highlights of their life and their challenges, just so I can build that love and that connection, that emotion. And then once I have the machshava and the dibur, I go into mice, I go into action. And I said to father, I said, when your son comes home, go there, give him a big warm hug. Hold on to that hug. Apparently, if you hold the hug for 20 seconds, the scientists say that releases the oxytocins in your body and makes you feel good. But hold that hug. Say I love you. Ask how the trip was, the exciting points, the highlights, and then you actually get to build emotion. So using those three aspects of machshava, dibur, and maisa, you can really apply that framework to any area of your life. You're feeling stuck in an area of your life, go to machshava first. My mind and how it just wants to be from an intellectual state of mind. And then I need to connect my mindset of emotion, right? What do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? How do I drive the energy up of that feeling? And then third, bring it into conscious action and make the change. And if you use just that framework alone, you could use that framework your whole life. It's great when you have lots of frameworks. And Baruch Hashem, we see in the Torah, there's endless frameworks, but just that framework alone can create such an incredible shift in your relationships and also, again, your mindset, because the more you do that, the more it changes how you are going to be, how you're going to be showing up in the world.
Absolutely fantastic. I've heard this, many of these pieces so many times, but every single time I hear it, anew, I get this twinkle in my eye, this excitement, this like, oh my gosh, this stuff is just, it's such truth when you feel it in such a deep way that your body just knows this is something that's really truth, and it's not just being made up by some random person that decided to go down some path and wake up one day and say, oh, I spoke to God or whatever it is. It's this is where it's really at, and you can feel it when you go through that process. I think one of the things that I definitely spoke about in my LinkedIn posts, and one of the things that I think that so many people don't realize is happening, is what are people doing that are getting in their own way? You mentioned this earlier, in a conversation you were having with someone that you asked them this question. But what are some of the common things that people are doing that are getting in that are helping them to get into their own way?
I was actually just going as you were saying that I was going to grab a copy of it, but probably on the other side of my desk. Yeah, I was going to say also you were saying the truths of things. I, definitely one of my favorite svarim is Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Father, and you see that everything that's in there, there's a language that they use. Hu haya omer. He used to say, right? They'll reference a saying of the sages, and he used to say. What does it mean? He said it all the time. It was something that he talked about. It was in his conversations. It was in his languages. It was in his interactions. It was a truth that he was sharing with the world. And one of the things, even in context, when I was sharing with the fathers last week, that with their kids coming home, I commented about that Shammai, right? There was Hillel, the sage Shammai. Shammai said, greet everybody with a pleasant smile, right? He was giving a key truth. You want to build relationships, smile. It's something that we have to do. And it was interesting because when I heard that, it also connected with a shmooze, a talk that I'd heard by Shimon Russell, who's an educator. A powerful conversation I heard between him and Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, and he was saying that children don't know the difference between thinking face and mad face. So when they see your thinking face,
Interesting.
you think as a father or a mother, you're thinking, they think you're mad. And it changes how they respond. And I was like, whoa, I'm a deep thinker. I'm a guy that's thinking all the time. So I'm like, oh my goodness, my kids think I'm mad all the time. So what have I been doing for the past month? Very focused on smiling. I'm constantly reminding myself. And the cool thing is I've seen the shift in my kids that when I started it, they were sort of like thrown off a little bit. So I'd smile at them and they're like, they're looking at me a little bit weird and holding a
What
straight
does he
face.
want?
What does he want? What is he doing? And but now when I look at them, I get a smile back when I smile at them, and I've noticed that the connection itself. And so you're so right about that aspect of truth, and you can open up a Pirkei Avos, and there's so much incredible wisdom. The trick is implementing it, and that goes to what you were saying, Yaacov, about how do people get in their way. I think one of the ways we get in our way is that we're just so busy consuming. We live in a consuming generation. We're just so busy consuming, we forget to stop and implement, and that really knocks us down. So when you're with your phone, right, all day you're going like this. You're going on, and as a side, you're also judging. Every time you're flipping, you're in constant judger mode too, which also brings out a negative energy. But when you're just moving nonstop, then you can't really create change in your life because you think that your job in this world is just to be a consumer and to take in information but not working to implement it. So that's the first big piece of where we get in our way, where it's I don't even have time to think to make those changes. So just nonstop consuming is going to mess a person up. The other is which we talked about already, is taking those small steps, right? We don't even take an initial action. That gets in our way. We can't make the change if we don't allow ourselves to take incremental steps. And even when we do take those incremental steps, it's knowing when to change gears or if to change gears. An analogy that I use is very often, right, an apple seed. The apple seed analogy, I learned this from Rav Miller, or Victor Miller, that's all. But an apple seed, you plant an apple seed, and how long does it take to grow into a tree? It takes and bear fruit about 7 to 10 years. It takes about 7 years before we finally get fruit from this apple tree. The whole time over that 7 years, it's just incremental growth. Sometimes it's not even noticeable. In the beginning, it's decay, and we see no growth at all. But then the little sprout comes up, and it slowly, 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 7 years later, it finally bears fruit. What do most people do? They don't have the patience to go through that process. So they plant the seed. A year later, they have this little sprout of a tree. There's no fruit. They say, oh, that doesn't work. And they rip it out of the ground. And they plant another seed. And they rip it out of the ground a year later. And they plant another seed. And they never experience success. So we have the aspect of one we said is consuming. The other is that we're not willing to actually go on the journey. That we get impatient with the journey. We want that instant gratification. We want to see that success now, that we forget, oh, we actually have to build towards the future. We have to go in an incremental step by step and be patient with that process. And it's very hard because we live in a world where there's instant gratification. So if we don't get that, we say, it's not working. But the truth of the matter is when you slow down and you get incremental and you're willing to just develop those consistent habits, you're going to see the change. So we have one we said is consuming too much and not actually slowing down and implementing. So that's one way we get in our way. Another way we get in our way is just not being patient with the process. And another way is we don't believe we can change, right? This is how I am, right? This is my nature. Again, a big theme. I'm very much in the mode right now of helping to create shift within our youth, because they're not being shown how powerful they are, how amazing they are, how much strength they have within them to cultivate. And one of the things we say is, it's just my nature. It's just my nature. I can't, I'm this way. It's my nature. I'm lazy. It's my nature. Whatever it is, we say it's our nature. You know what's natural? An animal is natural. A cow is natural, right? Animals do according to their programming. We go against our programming. That's what makes us man. If you look at our what God set out for us, what Hashem set out for us, everything is about going contrary to our nature. So much so that he took man and woman, separated them. In the beginning was man and woman together. So Adam knew what it meant to be a man, and he also understood what it meant to be a woman, that aspect of femininity, whatever it means, he understood those. And then Hashem said, I'm separating the two of you, and now I want you to build a relationship. But wait a second, I don't understand women. And women don't understand men. We don't make sense to each other, but we actually have to work to build a powerful relationship, even though we're lacking the tools. And the same thing in every aspect, we see that what Hashem tells us, the do nots are really don't go according to your nature, and the do's are to go against your nature, to define and build yourself up. So if you're telling yourself, I can't do this, it's not my way, it's not my nature, obviously it's not. You've got to work on it. That's the fun. Lafum tsar arga, according to the effort is the reward. It's fun to schwitz, it's fun to build, it's fun to push, it's fun to see the success. So those are definitely three ways that we're getting in our way. And the fourth that I mentioned in the beginning is going at it alone. It's unbelievable how, especially in our generation, and all the more so because we're stuck in our own little worlds of technology, but we think that we're supposed to be self-made. And if we are stuck and we're struggling, it's a sign of weakness. So we can't tell anybody what we're going through. We have to figure it out ourselves. And what ends up happening? We fail even more. We feel more pain. We feel more defeat. So that is probably, I would say, out of all the things, is one of our biggest hurdles. We're not coded for alone. There's only one, is Hashem. Everything else, if you look at the world, it's all partnership, it's all connection. And when you tell yourself, I'll figure this out myself, you miss so much. I've said a line before, when you're inside the box, you can't read the label on the outside. You can't see how you're acting. Even that example of the smile, my wife would comment, are you mad? No, I'm not mad. I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm busy. I'm thinking. Right? But she was right. I looked like I had a mad face all the time, but it takes an outside awareness. So that, more than anything else, I would say, is definitely something that holds us back in our group. And it's amazing to see that when you bring, not only in a one-on-one coaching situation, but if you've ever had the opportunity to sit in a mastermind where you sit a couple of people together and you just throw an idea out there and you start asking questions and you start challenging and supporting and cheering each other on, wow, the shift happens so at such an accelerated pace. You're suddenly connecting multiple minds. So it's a hurdle. It's one of the things that so much gets in the way. But when you access that piece and shift into, oh, I don't want to go alone anymore. I want to connect with the right people, good people, powerful people, quality people, people that help me lift myself up, and I can lift them up as well. When you do that, you suddenly start to break through all the barriers that are getting in your way, because you start to see all the walls that have been getting in your way.
Absolutely fantastic. And we actually spoke about this past week when we were having a conversation about coming onto the podcast and different things that we might speak about. But it's always powerful, hearing it again. Like, we are meant to have others going along with us. We're not meant to do things by ourselves, and we're not meant to be animals. We're meant to go against our nature. And I think that's a very profound piece. Um, Moving into Q&A, and I'll have a question for you while we give people a chance to put something into the chat here, and you could put in as well what you're stuck on today, or a question you might have for myself or Moshe. Feel free to put that into the chat as we open the floor for Q&A. But while we're waiting for people to do that, you mentioned that we're not meant to to do things on our own. We're meant to have others supporting us and in partnership throughout that process. Is high performance something that someone can go solo with, and they could go through a process or a curriculum essentially on their own, or do they need a coach to really reach high performance?
So I'll say yes and yes. There
Okay.
are, if you're familiar with the Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. So the idea in that is that there's in that. So for example, like the question you asked, can somebody go it alone? At least 80%, probably 95 to 99% of people should do things in partnership, right? With a chaver, with a coach, with a therapist, whatever it might be. If they want to create change in their life, going out alone is not going to work. You do have unique individuals that are so self-directed, and they make it's their mahus, it's their life mission, it's their essence, that they work on that. And those are more often than not, those are the unique individuals where you'll see, right, in the Torah that they spent, right, it talks about, I think in the Chagiga, the rabbi that spent 300 days in a room with barrels of oil. He wouldn't even leave the room because he wanted to research a point, right? He was so self-directed, he was able to hold space. But for most of us, it's so important to have a sounding board. And I've often said it tongue-in-cheek that we see in Pirkei Avos, Rabbi Yeshua ben Prachia said, right? Acquire a friend for yourself. He wasn't saying it if you're a Nebuch. He was saying it if you're a Gadol Hador, if you're the greatest person, if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Don't go through life alone, because you need somebody to bounce ideas off. I see for myself, when I stepped into the realm of high performance coaching, I started taking myself through the habits. I'm good at that. I can listen to an audio, I can read a book, and I can start implementing it. And it was beneficial. But then when I started getting coached in it myself, next level, right? When
Yeah.
when
Same.
my teammate points out to me, next level. Whenever I get into my own world and I close out doors and I put the walls around me and think I could do it myself, what ends up happening is I reach a comfort point. I'm like, okay, I'm cool where I am, right? I got it all figured out. And if any problems hit me from the outside, it's something wrong with them, right? Because I've been high performance, right? So it must be them, not me. You can get myopic because you get comfortable, right? Everybody is like that. We want to go to our homeostatic level. We don't want to push ourselves. So for the most part, if you're going at it alone, make sure you're checking in with at least once in a while. And the truth of the matter is, when I take my clients through this process, it's not always that they have to go on a lifelong journey, right? It's the dream of coaches. Oh, it's this. It's just like there's it's like a never ending. There's no horizon and there's no change. But when I take clients through the high performance journey, it's a set 12 weeks. This is what we're working on for 12 weeks. Afterwards, we might go on another 12-week journey, or we might go on a once a month journey. It depends on what you need, but the idea is, how fast do you want to grow? And again, Hashem gave us this great world of the outside world of sports and entertainment and business, where we can take lessons. If you go to the Fortune 50 companies, if you go to the top athletes and the top performers, what do they all have in common? They've got a coach. They've got a coach that is training the habits on a daily basis. And what's amazing is when you think of it, especially Olympic athletes, I was just listening to some interesting stuff recently in one of their core habits that they really developed within themselves is optimism. Because if you're not optimistic that you're going to win the gold, which is crazy when you think about it, because there's hundreds of athletes competing at the Olympics for the gold, only one person can win, and they spend 5 to 10 years training for that day, right?
Yeah.
Every day with a coach, they hold course. And what's the coach doing with them? They're saying, what are the elements that you need to work on to hit your goal 10 years from now, right? And that's what they're doing every day. So they're going for big goals, and athletes and entertainers and people in business, the ones that want to hit the highest level of success, they have a coach. And I think something like 90% of those people all work with a coach on an almost daily basis. And when I heard that, I was like, it's sort of interesting because I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best father, right? I want to have incredible health. I want to have a successful life. Why am I not doing that on a daily basis, right? Probably because it's the investment, and the game we're playing is so much better, greater than the Olympics, right? The goals
Right.
that we're going through. So it's so important that you have to at least test the waters on that. If you want to create that change, yes, open up a book, start to implement a few things, but give yourself that gift of seeing what transformation being supported by, whether it's a mastermind or a coach, can really accept the change, because also you get accountability. You have somebody rooting for
Mm-hmm.
you, and they've got your back. And it's amazing. I've just helped guys change just by offering to check in with them on a daily basis. That I know what their long-term goal is, and I know what that habit. Just a little knock on the door each day. Did you hold space? And having that, just that alone, knowing that somebody cares and cheers on, creates such incredible change, such rapid change.
Yeah, 100%. And I could say, as someone who's been on the receiving end of that, it's been a game changer. Just to bring in this question that we have over here, um, what is the one thing that people can do to start today to begin the journey of high performance? What's the first thing they should do?
Hmm. The first thing is decide, right? That's really, if, and this goes back to our original discussion of machshava, dibur, and maisa, thought,
Right.
emotions, and action. That in one of the key indicators of success, we said optimism is one of the key indicators of success. Optimistic people succeed, but the other one, a really big key factor in success, is speed of implementation. And I don't know if you've ever seen. There's a book out there. It's an old book. I like the oldies. Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill. He wrote a book on success, and this goes back, I think, to the 50s. And he went to the great steel magnate Andrew Carnegie, and he was Napoleon Hill was a journalist at the time, and Andrew Carnegie invited him to his home, and he gave him an offer. He said, "I would like to offer to you to research. I'm going to introduce you to the greats of our time, the successful people of our time, and you're going to interview them, and you're going to figure out what the pathway is. What are the things, the habits that people need to work on, the mindset to become successful." And Andrew Carnegie says, "But I'm not paying you anything. This is a 25-year journey. It's probably going to take you 25 years. You need to be fully committed to it. I'm going to make the connection, and you're going to learn and hopefully implement these things in your life and become wealthy as well." And Napoleon Hill thought about it for a few moments, and he said yes. And the rest is history. He's no longer here, but his books and his teaching, so much of the growth space, coaching, high performance, all these things, he was one of the key starters of that. And he later found out that when Andrew Carnegie asked him that question, Andrew Carnegie had his watch under his desk, and he was counting 60 seconds. And he told Napoleon Hill if it would have gone to 61 seconds, the offer would have been taken back. Because Andrew Carnegie knew that speed of implementation is the key to success. So if you want to start the journey to high performance, one of the key things is make a decision, start that first action. It could be that you just want to smile more, be conscious at the table of smiling or saying a kind word. Or if you're in business, if you do this, ready for this, if you're in business, especially you have the ability to grow your own business, this across the board, it works for everybody that's growing a business that needs customers and deals with customers. if you reach out to one person every day, right? If you start today, you want to be high performance in your business, reach out to one person every day. Get out of your comfort zone. It's nervous, it's scary, but if you do it one person every day, if you do that every day for 5 years, by the end of 5 years, you will have spoken to, we say 250 business days, 1,250 people. Your business will be growing really well. You'll be already on the route of high performance. So if you want to make changes, make a decision, decide an area that you can take a small step in, something that you could do daily, consistent, ongoing, and start doing that action and track yourself. Right? If you don't put up, you can see on the back of the wall here, I got my charts everywhere. If you don't track yourself and check in with yourself every day, it drops off the map so quickly. Sorry about the ringing there. It drops off the map so quickly, and you'll lose it. So that, I would say, more than anything else, is a key to tapping and just starting on that journey to high performance. And as well, for those of you that are interested, you were saying before, Yaacov, you're welcome to reach out to me. Yaakov's going to send you my information. You can shoot me an email. Not only do I do one-on-one coaching, but at the beginning of COVID, I started this space for men where we get together on a weekly basis. So we have a mastermind, and as well, we're getting ready to launch a what do we call it? A inner circle, right? So we have one-on-one, we have large groups, but also a small group of about 5 to 6 men where we go really, really pushing ourselves. This is for guys that are done already with how it's been working up until now, and they're really willing to get out of their way, push against their nature, push against the things that scare them, and really go for success in their life. So those are some ways.
Absolutely fantastic. And in ending, like we do in any one of these live podcasts, I always like to point out I have 2 full pages of notes, as many a time when I speak to Moshe. If I were to try to put all of that into implementation at once, I'd fall flat in my face and break my nose. So make sure that you pick one thing, right? One of the keys that we spoke about today even is that speed of implementation, deciding, tracking, but doing it with one thing at a time so that you have the space, the ability, the patience to really move things forward. As Moshe mentioned, the offer that he's putting forward today, you can send an email. I put his contact information in the chat on the live today, and it will be in the description on Spotify as well. To reach out to him, send him an email, and he's more than happy to, step in, have a conversation, and see how he might be able to help you to take your life to the next level. For myself, in this live podcast, we always speak about things that are timely, interesting, that you can add to your skill set toolbox. And if you loved this live podcast today, you can feel free to hit myself up for a free 30-minute strategy call to take your sales game to the next level, or even just ask me questions about today or things in general. They do move pretty quickly. And so I definitely suggest grabbing one of those. My contact information as well is in the chat, my Calendly, my WhatsApp. And Moshe, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been
Thank you. This
an
is great.
Absolute amazing podcast. As always, a conversation whenever we have one, and greatly appreciate it. Thank you, everyone else who's here today, and I wish you all a fantastic rest of your day. Until next time, take care.
All the best.